When 20 years of marriage collapse in a single moment, it's not one fatal event that causes it, but a chain of small decisions that once seemed harmless. But what if the past, buried under layers of time and habit, suddenly breaks free? A woman, convinced she left her mistakes in a distant youth, now faces the reality that her own journals, those she wrote in moments of youthful self-destruction, have become weapons aimed at her. Everything that was buried resurfaces. Everything that seemed solid crumbles into ruins. But the true catastrophe begins when the pain of the past spills into the present. When those you love most start to question not only you, but also who they are themselves. Can lost trust ever be rebuilt when every truth sounds like a lie? Or are some mistakes truly unforgivable? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. James's shout rang from the basement, slicing through the stillness of the afternoon and startling Julia enough that her coffee sloshed over the rim of her mug. Down here! Now! Startled, she set the mug in the sink, brows knitting in concern. What had happened? Did something fall? A leak, maybe? She descended the creaking stairs cautiously, blinking against the stark white light of a lone bulb swaying from the ceiling. Amid a clutter of half-unpacked boxes and scattered papers stood James, rigid, holding something small and pink. That better not be my diary, she joked weakly, a nervous laugh escaping her lips, though her stomach was already tightening. Julia wasn't immediately worried. Over the years she'd filled countless journals, most of them long forgotten. But the way James stood, motionless, the color drained from his face, made the hairs on her arms stand up. He turned, slowly. His face wasn't just angry. It was contorted with horror, like he'd read something he couldn't unsee. "Oh, it's yours," he said, voice low and glacial. "And it's not just a diary. It's a detailed history of everything I never knew." Her blood ran cold. "James, please," she began, forcing a smile that felt like glass cracking. "You know how young people write. Dramatic nonsense, things they don't mean. It's not serious." She stepped forward, palm extended, hoping he'd just give it back, but he clutched it tighter. "Not serious?" he repeated, his hand trembling. "Then explain this, because what I just read—" His breath hitched. "You've destroyed everything." A sick thud landed in her chest. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "What are you talking about?" He flipped open the diary, landing on a dog-eared page. When he read, his voice quivered with rage. "If James doesn't propose soon, I swear I'll lose my mind. Jacob makes me feel alive. The way he—" James cut himself off, exhaling hard. He didn't look at her. "There's more," he muttered, turning another page. Julia froze, breath caught in her throat. Jacob. She'd buried that name under layers of excuses and fading memory. It had been a mistake. Once, stupid, meaningless. But dread pooled in her gut. There was more, much more. She had once bled secrets into those journals, some real, others exaggerated. A young woman feeding on chaos and the rush of confession. But reading them now, they weren't memories. They were landmines. "That was a different life," she said softly, trying to steady her voice. "We're not those people anymore. It doesn't—" "Don't." His voice cracked like a whip. "You don't get to speak. Not yet." He flipped further, reading jagged phrases aloud, each one hitting like a blow. "I can't stop thinking about last night. The way Gavin pinned me to the wall. James is gone, and I'm so tired of being alone. Maybe Gavin will come by again this weekend. Never thought I'd be the kind of woman to sleep with two men in one day. But this morning was Ethan, and tonight, Marcus. The rush is insane. I know it's wrong, but who am I hurting? James doesn't need to know. I'll calm down once we're married." Julia's legs threatened to give out. Her hand flew to her mouth. These weren't hazy memories. These were written confessions, her darkest, wildest, most reckless truths. And now they were tearing through her present. "That was 3 decades ago," she whispered, tears collecting in her lashes. "It has nothing to do with who I am now." James snapped the book shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the basement. "Nothing to do with us?" he hissed, waving the diary like an indictment. "This is a record of betrayal, entry after entry." Instinctively, she stepped back. For a moment, fear sparked behind her ribs. But then something else surged to the surface. Resolve. She lifted her chin. "I'm not that girl anymore," she said, voice hardening. "I was young, selfish." "Were you?" he barked, eyes blazing. "Because some of these entries, they're from after we were engaged." "Don't twist this," Julia shot back, arms crossed. "Don't act like you're discovering some fresh wound. These things happened before the vows, before the commitment." James's voice thundered. "I had a right to know. I thought I was marrying someone who missed me while I was away at school. Instead, I married someone who ran to the next guy the minute I turned my back." "It wasn't like that," she said through clenched teeth. But even as she said it, the weight of the truth pressed down. It was like that, more often than she wanted to admit. He stared at her with hollow eyes, pale and stunned. "Not like that?" he echoed. "Have you read your own words? One man after another, like you were chasing destruction?" His voice faltered. His whole body sagged with disbelief. "I don't even know who you are." Something in her face shifted, grief sharpening into steel. "You don't get to rewrite history," she said coldly. "You don't get to burn it all down over something that ended before our life together began." James let out a bitter laugh. Empty, brittle, broken. "That's your defense? That it doesn't count because it's ancient history?" Her voice was cool, the kind of calm that takes effort, an outer shell trying to contain the growing pit in her stomach. She folded her arms, feigning apathy, like she wasn't coming undone inside. "Everyone makes dumb choices in their 20s. Just drop it." James pried open another cardboard box layered in dust, flipping through stacks of old photographs. "And you actually kept all this?" His tone hovered between disbelief and something darker. "Starting to think you like hanging on to all the filth." Julia recognized the box right away. It was a time capsule she should have destroyed long ago, stuffed with relics and snapshots she thought she'd buried for good. James slid a photo out from the pile. Julia's lungs seized. "Who the hell are these guys?" His words came out clipped, sharp. He stared at the image, then pierced her with a look. The picture showed Julia on a couch, her blouse askew, surrounded by 5 men. Their expressions were smug, too familiar, arms slung around her like she was part of the furniture. One was flexing for the camera. Another pointed to her backside like he'd won a prize. But it was her own expression that twisted her stomach the most. She looked euphoric, wild. "Oh, for God's sake, James," she said with a hollow chuckle. "It was just a party. It didn't mean anything." But the photo told a different story. The intimacy, the mess of her hair, the energy captured in the frame. It all screamed chaos and connection. The final blow, a bold scrawl in thick black marker across the bottom read, "Best night ever." James's eyes filled, though he blinked hard to stop them from spilling. "Why would you keep this?" His voice dropped to something rough and gutted. "Why hold on to something so filthy? Something that makes everything we've built feel like a joke?" Her shrug was jerky, not quite convincing. "I didn't even know it was still in there." The photo slipped from his hand like it burned him. "Get out." "James," I said, "get out." He didn't yell. He didn't have to. The steel in his tone froze her. She turned and stormed up the stairs, jaw locked, eyes glistening. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "Decades of marriage, stability, a home. They were unraveling because of a few forgotten photos. And why was he even digging through the basement in the first place? Not long after, he reappeared at the foot of the stairs, holding her old diary in one hand, more pictures in the other. "Go to your parents," he said quietly. His calm was more terrifying than a shout. "You can't just kick me out. It's my house, too. Not right now, it's not. Not until I figure out what this even means." He lifted the diary. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? For 30 years I believed in something that maybe never even existed." She let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, come off it, James. If it was all a lie, then what about the life we had? What about everything we built together?" He was trembling, breath uneven. "Was it real, Julia? Or did you just burn out on being reckless and decide I was a safe landing?" "This is exactly what I'm talking about," she snapped. "Yes, I was reckless. I made mistakes. But people grow up. They change." His expression turned to stone. "Start packing, or I will." She wanted to fight back, to scream, but one look at his face told her it was over. For now. She turned and went upstairs. In their bedroom, her movements were frantic, stuffing clothes into a suitcase with shaky, angry hands. She could hear him pacing downstairs. Right before zipping the bag, her gaze fell on a framed photo by the nightstand. James, their kids, her. All wearing matching sweaters, arms looped around each other, mid-laugh like a commercial for the perfect family. She picked it up, closed her eyes. He'll calm down. He has to. Downstairs, James waited by the door, unreadable and cold. She dragged her suitcase across the floor, refusing to show how shaken she was. At the threshold, she turned to him. "You're making a mistake. You're going to regret this." He didn't answer, just clutched the diary tighter. As she drove off, she caught a glimpse of him in the rearview mirror, still standing there, unmoving, that damned book in his hands. In that instant, her anger burned, not just toward him, toward herself, too. In a small town, secrets don't stay buried. By the time she pulled into her parents' driveway, her phone buzzed non-stop with notifications. One message from her friend Laura lit up the screen. "He's at the bar, telling everyone what he found. Are you okay?" Julia swore under her breath. James wasn't just wounded, he wanted vengeance. "He's turning our life into a sideshow," she thought bitterly, shoving the phone back into her purse. That could wait. First, she had to face the next conversation. Her parents, both well into their 80s, had always loved James like he was their own son. When she explained, choosing her words carefully, holding her voice steady, she glossed over the gritty parts. Just told them James had read through some old diaries and was overreacting about things that happened before we were married. Her mother's brow furrowed, concern carved deep in her features. "But sweetheart," she said softly, "if it all happened before the wedding, why is he so hurt?" "It's complicated," Julia muttered, steering clear of any mention of the numerous affairs, especially the ones that blurred together during her engagement. She didn't even dare allude to that explicit photo involving 5 men. Just the thought of her father's horrified reaction was enough to silence her. Meanwhile, James was on a video call, speaking to their grown children with brutal honesty. He spared no details. Not one. The fallout was immediate. Julia's daughter lit up her phone with angry messages and missed calls. When Julia finally picked up, her daughter's voice came through, shaking with fury. "How could you do this to Dad?" she screamed. "You were with all these men while engaged? That's disgusting." Julia's body tensed, her cheeks flushing. "Watch your mouth," she barked. "Oh, what? Now you're the stern parent again?" her daughter snapped. "That ship sailed. We read it, Mom." "Dad sent us your journal. You actually wrote about sleeping with 5 men in 1 week while you were supposed to be marrying him?" Julia clenched her phone, her knuckles pale. "It's not what you think. You're missing context. It was a long time ago." Her daughter let out a slow, bitter breath. You lied. To him. To us. I looked up to you. And now, I'm sick to my stomach. Then the line went dead. Over the next few days, Julia scrambled to repair the damage, especially with her daughter, who barely replied. But before she could make headway, the situation took a devastating turn. One quiet afternoon, her daughter called again. This time her voice was eerily calm. "Mom," she said flatly, "I ordered a DNA test." Julia went cold. Old journal entries came flooding back, fuzzy memories she'd worked hard to bury. The timeline had always been risky, those hookups, those impulsive decisions, right around when she and James got engaged, and when her daughter was probably conceived. But Julia had always told herself James was the father. She needed to believe that. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Just a standard DNA kit," her daughter replied. "Mostly for ancestry. But you know what else it shows." Julia paused. "Honey, come on. Those tests aren't always accurate." "They're accurate enough," her daughter shot back, "and Dad took one too. So we'll know." Julia's world tilted. She closed her eyes. "All right," she murmured, "if that's what you need to do." The waiting dragged on endlessly. Each day felt like it lasted a year. Julia tried to convince herself it was all nerves, that her guilt was clouding her thoughts. She prayed that James was the biological father. Please, let it be him. Then one afternoon, while Julia was visiting her aging parents, her phone rang. Her daughter's name flashed on the screen. She answered. "Mom," her daughter whispered, voice cracking. "It says, he's not my dad." Julia's stomach dropped. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. The floor seemed to fall away beneath her. "Oh my God," her daughter sobbed. "You lied. My whole life, it's been fake. He's not my real father. Did you know?" Julia gasped, her voice splintering. I wasn't sure. I always wondered, but I didn't know. I told myself I was just being paranoid." Tears filled the silence. Then her daughter said, through broken breaths, "Dad's leaving. He says he can't be here anymore. He's talking about moving down to Florida to be near his parents. He won't even look at me. Fix it." Julia's own tears spilled over. "How am I supposed to fix this?" she choked out. "He's still your father in every way that matters. He loves you. That hasn't changed. But he's not really my dad." Her daughter's voice was hollow now. The call ended again, just like that. Later that week, Julia returned to the home she and James once shared. Her stomach twisted. Guilt, humiliation, anger all battling inside her. When she stepped through the door, James was already there, standing stiffly in the center of the room, his face red and tight. Whether from grief or fury, she couldn't tell. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up," he said in a low voice. Julia tossed her hair back, doing her best to keep a shred of control. "I came to grab my things." James let out a harsh, bitter laugh. It echoed in the emptiness of the house. "You should take it all. I'm leaving. For good." She stood frozen. "What about us?" His eyes locked on hers, cold and sharp. "There is no us, Julia. You destroyed that with your lies. You betrayed me before we even said I do. You acted like, damn, I can't even bring myself to say the words. And now? Now I learn the daughter I raised, the one I loved like my own, isn't even mine." A storm swirled inside Julia. Guilt, anger, heartbreak. Part of her wanted to scream that it happened years ago, that it was ancient history. But James wasn't listening to that. Not anymore. The DNA results had smashed every last trace of trust. "James," she said, her voice cracking under the weight of shame. "I was so young. I didn't even know who the father was back then. But I chose you. I've always chosen you. I loved you, and I still do. That's why I stayed," she added, pleading now. "I didn't run off with anyone else. And let's not forget, you were there for her. You are her father. That has to count for something. His glare could have burned a hole straight through her. Count for something? He repeated, his voice simmering with fury. Julia, I thought she was mine. I read her bedtime stories. I taught her how to ride a bike. I paid every cent of her college tuition. And you're telling me now, all that time, you let me believe a lie? She took a hesitant step forward, reaching for him. I wanted to protect you, and her too. She knows you as her dad. She loves you. James recoiled, his face twisted in disbelief. Protect me? He spat, the words venomous. Is that what you're calling it? His voice dropped into a bitter murmur, each word laced with contempt. How noble of you, Julia, making that call all by yourself. You decided I didn't even deserve the truth. You played God. She reached for him again, but he backed away, disgust written across his face. Don't, he snapped, ice in his tone. Don't come near me. Don't act like this is about love or guilt. You're only here to save face, or fish for pity. Typical. His gaze was scathing, like she was something rotten beneath his shoe. You've always been about you. Selfish, arrogant. That's who you are. Her temper flared. Oh, really? I'm the selfish one? She shot back. You're dragging my name through the mud in front of the entire town just to humiliate me. Damn right I am, he roared, voice rising. You should be ashamed. You built this marriage on lies. You turned our life into a fraud. Julia clenched her fists, the hurt quickly morphing into fury. Well, you're no angel either, James. Strutting around like some wounded saint, like you've never made a mistake in your life. His face went red, jaw tightening like he was about to explode, but then something inside him seemed to shift. He inhaled deeply, squared his shoulders, and spoke with unsettling calm. Leave. She blinked, startled. I said get out, he growled, pointing toward the door, or I swear, I'll have the cops throw you out for trespassing. Her lip trembled. He wasn't bluffing. She could see it in his eyes. There was so much she wanted to say, to argue, to plead. But it was over. She turned away and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The moment she sat behind the wheel of her car, the tears came. Fast, unstoppable. Why are you even crying? She thought bitterly. This is your fault, every bit of it. He's right. In a town of 3,600, secrets were as good as billboards. News of her fall spread like lightning. The betrayal, the test, the truth, it was everywhere. People stared when she shopped for her parents. Some looked at her with pity. Others didn't bother hiding their scorn. She tried to drown out the whispers. Did you hear about Julia? They say the kid's not James's. I heard she was sleeping around back then. There's even a picture. My cousin's neighbor saw it, said it was crazy. One afternoon, while grabbing a box of cereal, she overheard two women near the milk aisle casually mention that James was packing up for Florida. That Julia had no one to blame but herself. Her chest tightened like a vice. She ditched her cart and rushed outside. As she reached her car, her phone vibrated. It was her mother, panic in her voice. Julia, come quick. James is on the phone. He wants to talk. Julia's heart leapt in her chest. Maybe the worst had passed. Maybe they could finally have a real conversation. She sped to her parents' house, hope flickering like a dying candle. But the moment she stepped into the living room, she felt the tension. Thick, suffocating. Her mom hovered near the speakerphone, worry etched in every line of her face. Julia. James's voice came through, sounding older, worn down. I need you to do something for me. She blinked, caught off guard. You need a favor? He exhaled, long and tired. I'm done. I'm moving to Florida next week. But first, I need you to sign the separation papers. Her stomach twisted. A separation? She echoed, the word cutting like glass. James, no. Please, don't do this. Sign them, he said, emotionless. Or I'll file for divorce. No talking it out, no deals, nothing. Her parents exchanged anxious looks. Julia pressed her fingers to her temples, trying not to scream. After everything we've been through? After 30 years? He gave a short, bitter laugh. No, Julia. This decision didn't happen today. It was made the day you cheated, the day you lied, and kept lying. That was your choice. Now here's mine. Julia bit down hard, choking on the sob building in her throat. Fine. Let them show up. The days crawled by with almost no contact. Julia withdrew further into her own bitterness, ignoring incoming calls from familiar names, her phone left on silent. Then, a whisper from someone she trusted made her stomach twist. James had been seen out with Sylvia. Yes, that Sylvia. The one who used to be married to Jacob, the electrician who'd made regular appearances in Julia's old diary entries. The revelation ignited something raw inside her, a cocktail of rage, jealousy, and disbelief. "He's copying me," she muttered, pacing across the faded carpet in her childhood room. "Only he's flaunting it. He wants me to hurt." To be fair, James had every right to move on, but the idea of him and Sylvia bonding over the pain that she and Jacob had caused, the irony was too cruel. It felt as if fate itself was twisting the knife just to watch her bleed. Then her phone vibrated. An unfamiliar number. One chilling message. "You get what you give." Her pulse jumped. Sylvia. Julia stared at the screen, her face burning with a mix of anger and shame. "I'm not getting dragged into this," she murmured, though her hand twitched with the urge to throw the phone across the room. Still, her resolve faltered. "Leave me alone. You don't belong in my marriage." The reply came instantly. "Not your marriage anymore, sweetheart. He deserves better." Julia exhaled sharply, the words cutting deep. She clenched her jaw, forcing herself to walk away from the device. "They're perfect for each other," she snapped, even as guilt coiled tightly in her chest. "I never imagined it could all unravel so fast." One icy Sunday morning, unable to sit with the uncertainty any longer, she drove back to the place she still thought of as home. James was preparing for his move down to Florida, and Julia needed to see him, whether for closure or one last shot at salvaging something. Maybe he'd remember what they had. Maybe he'd reconsider. The driveway was littered with boxes in various stages of packing. James stood among them, giving instructions to a friend as they loaded up the moving truck. The second he spotted her car, his face shifted, hardened like cooling metal. He was striding toward her before she even stepped out. "What are you doing here?" he asked flatly, his tone devoid of warmth. The wind tousled his hair, revealing new creases etched by grief, fatigue, or perhaps resentment. Julia stepped out, unbothered by the curious look from James's friend. "I need to talk to you. Just us." James's body stiffened, his jaw tightening before he gave a reluctant nod. Inside, the house was unrecognizable, most of the furniture gone, boxes stacked along the walls. The couch they used to curl up on had vanished, already packed away with everything else. James crossed his arms. "Say whatever it is and go." Julia swallowed hard, forcing the words through the knot in her throat. "James, I know I messed up. I'm not denying it. But we spent 30 years together. That has to count for something. I did awful, selfish things when I was young, but I've been loyal ever since. You know that." He laughed bitterly. "No, Julia, I don't know that, because now I'm wondering if I ever really knew you at all." She stepped closer, undeterred by the venom in his voice. "Let's be honest here. Our daughter, she may not be biologically yours, but in every way that matters, she's your child. She adores you, and so do I." James's face twitched at that. "Yeah? Funny how none of that came up while you were living a double life for 3 decades. Her voice quivered. "It was one terrible choice, a lifetime ago. I'm not that woman anymore. Don't erase everything we built." He locked eyes with her, the silence between them taut and heavy. Then, slowly, he shook his head. "If you'd said all this a few months ago, maybe I would have listened. But after what I read in those journals—" "They're ancient history," she interrupted, her voice cracking, tears shining in her eyes. You're acting like this all just happened. His voice rose. It doesn't matter if it happened last week or 30 years back. You let me believe I married someone honest, someone I could trust. You let me build my life on a lie. Now his fury spilled out in full force. All those years, there was a graveyard of secrets. Gavin, Ethan, Marcus, and who else? And that photo of you smiling with 5 guys like it was all some big joke. I can't get that image out of my head. Her expression crumpled, humiliation surging through her, though she tried to hold herself together. This is unbelievable. What do you want me to do? I can't rewrite the past. Exactly, he said, his voice low and bitter. And I can't change how I feel now. Julia finally broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. So that's it? You're done with me? He nodded, slow and solemn. We were over the moment the truth came out. The rest is just details. I've got no reason to stay. Not in this house. Not in this town. She wrung her hands, panic starting to settle in. Please, what about counseling? Couldn't we at least try? No. The word was sharp, definitive. I'm not spending the rest of my life doubting you. I can't even look at you without thinking about them. Julia's body sagged, the weight of it all too much. So you're really running to Sylvia? That's your answer? James arched a brow, unimpressed. Sylvia didn't lie to me for 30 years. And whatever's going on between us, it's not your business anymore. It's over. That final remark snapped something inside her. Grief twisted into rage. You're such a damn hypocrite if you're sleeping with her. You realize that, right? If you still can't let go of the past. He cut her off with a harsh, humorless laugh. God, you really don't get it. This was never just about a fling. It's about how you deceived me. The ego, the secrets, our whole marriage, built on fiction. His tone was low, but his fury simmered just beneath the surface. If you can't see the difference by now, then there's nothing left to talk about. The silence that followed felt alive, charged, and suffocating. Then came an interruption, a voice from the doorway. Yo, man, hate to cut this short, but the truck's ready. James gave a small nod. All right, I'm coming. Julia turned toward him, her expression stricken, eyes begging for something, anything. But he wouldn't look at her. Without a word, he grabbed his coat from the floor and walked out. Days slipped by, then weeks. James left for Florida. Their daughter moved to Orlando for a new position. Their son stayed behind in Atlanta. And Julia remained in the house where she'd grown up, back in the narrow bedroom where she'd once pasted posters and planned a future. Now, only regret and ghosts kept her company. Most nights, she scrolled through old photos, family dinners, vacations, birthday cakes, freezing on the ones where she and James were beaming, as if nothing could ever break them. Her thoughts always returned to the basement, to that one instant. If only she had destroyed those diaries, or better yet, never written them in the first place. But the damage was done. No amount of remorse could turn back time. Every so often, the phone would ring, numbers tied to old friends sniffing for scandal. She never answered. She didn't have the energy to explain, to defend, to relive the collapse. The truth was a weight she carried constantly. She was the one who shattered it all. One night, consumed by a storm of emotion, she nearly got behind the wheel and drove all the way to Florida. She imagined showing up at James's door, falling apart right there on his porch. But she knew it wouldn't fix a thing. He was already gone, not just physically, but entirely. The man who had once loved her, who had raised a child believing she was his, who had built a life beside her, he was lost to her. And in losing him, she had lost pieces of herself she couldn't retrieve. At 2:14 a.m., she sent her daughter a message. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I love you. Tell me how the new place is. No response. Then she called her son, leaving a choked-up message. "Please call me. I know you're in pain. I am too. I love you more than anything." Silence. The stillness that followed was unbearable. One chilly evening, Julia sat in the living room without moving, swallowed by the dark. Her father entered quietly, clearing his throat. "Julia," he said softly, "I know it's been rough, but maybe you should try talking to the kids in person." Tears brimmed in her eyes. "They won't talk to me. It's like I've vanished from their lives." He lowered himself beside her, resting a steady hand on her shoulder. "You have to understand how they feel, especially your daughter. Everything she thought she knew about her life, it shifted beneath her feet." Julia's voice was barely audible. "I know. It's all because of me. If I had just told James the truth back then, maybe we could have—" Her words broke off. She couldn't say the rest. Her father's face was lined with sadness. "You may have lost James," he murmured, "but don't lose the kids too. Let them be mad. Let them grieve. Say you're sorry again and again if you have to. But don't let shame keep you from trying." Julia gave a slight nod and dropped her head into her hands. "I don't even know if they can forgive me." He gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Maybe they can't, but you have to keep reaching out." As weeks passed, Julia found a part-time job at a small boutique downtown, just enough to fill the hours, to keep herself from falling apart completely. She still lived with her elderly parents, pitching in with chores, preparing meals, scrubbing floors, hoping productivity could drown out the emptiness. James was rebuilding in Florida, somewhere near Tampa. Word got to her that he was renting a modest house by the bay. Whispers said he was still in touch with Sylvia. Some insisted it was innocent. Others said otherwise. Julia told herself it didn't matter, but it did. The thought of him healing, moving on, while she stayed stuck in the wreckage, it ate away at her. Her children kept their distance. Her daughter occasionally texted, short, clinical messages about documents or bills. Her son remained silent. Night after night, Julia lay awake, haunted. Haunted by the notebooks she thought harmless. Haunted by that one photo, laughing, arms around 5 men. Haunted by the moment she discovered she was pregnant and brushed off the suspicious timing. She used to believe it wouldn't come back to haunt her. But she understood now. Some things don't stay buried. Some lies, even ones scribbled years ago and shoved into forgotten corners, wait like ticking bombs. And when they go off, they destroy everything. Each night, she drifted into a restless sleep in the same twin bed she had as a teenager. And in her dreams, James was still beside her, smiling, loving her, holding her hand on the sidelines of a soccer field as they watched their daughter play. Just like they used to. She'd wake with dry tears on her face, the ache as sharp as ever. Life continued, broken, hushed, soaked in grief. That night in the basement, when James held the diary in shaking hands and read words she had long forgotten, that was the moment everything unraveled. And there was no rewriting that ending. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.